Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Peaky podcast of 2024. Before we get into today's podcast, though, I want to do a very slight ad. If you want to improve your Lego displays and to make them really pop on Instagram and in YouTube backgrounds, head on over to gameofbricks.eu/peakyarrow for 15% off on Lego light kits to improve Lego cities, Lego displays, and everything geeky. But I want to welcome on Dead Guy, Sweatword, and Mr. Baz on today's podcast. Welcome on in, everybody. How are we?
You guys?
Good.
Wonderful.
Good. So today's episode, I've never really done a certain topic for the podcasts that we've done so far. We've always just shot the shit, basically. But today I want to talk about pop culture universes, and two of the universes I want to chat about is Mario and the Zelda universe. Because I don't know if you guys have ever thought this, but when it comes to Mario, do you ever think Mario ever gets sick and tired of having to rescue Princess Peach from Bowser every week?
I've seen those memes. I saw a meme
this morning before I went to work, and it's kind of I had it in my head all day.
When's he going to figure it out?
Yeah, because surely, right, Bowser kidnapping Princess Peach, it must constantly, or wanting to kidnap Princess Peach constantly. Is Mario and Luigi just ever going to get sick and tired of it and just be like, you know what, I can't be bothered today. Let's just leave her there.
See, the fact you mentioned those two universes just gave me the idea. You know how everyone likes verses?
Yeah.
They always, Mario universe versus the Zelda universe. Yeah, that's what we need to see.
Well, it's the same thing with Zelda, is that Ganondorf invades Hyrule, Ganondorf kidnaps Princess Zelda, Link has to go and save Zelda and save Hyrule. And it's do you think he ever gets tired of being the hero?
Are you suggesting Nintendo have a very specific niche of ideas when it comes to plot lines?
Look, when it comes to Mario, I will say it's got to be better than being a fucking plumber. His choice is go back and then pull some crap out of somebody's toilet, go dig a hole and try to fix somebody's sink, or kill some shit, run around, do some cool shit, and then save Princess Peach, and then some snogging.
Being a plumber's probably better played, though. You get paid more for being a plumber.
I don't know. He gets a lot of coins, a lot of gold coins. They don't pay you gold coins in plumbing.
But they like chocolate coins, though. We don't know.
Those coins are what, one each, so it's one coin. So how much is rent and food and utilities and everything else like that in the Mushroom Kingdom?
And how many? And also, what level does it take for the mushrooms to become sentient? Because Mario's always eating mushrooms, isn't he? That's his thing.
Yeah.
And then there's toads that are mushrooms. Yeah. So are they
And Goombas kind of look like mushrooms as well, if you think about it. Goombas are the brown mushrooms.
They're sentient mushrooms.
Unless we're on about the Thingy Mario movie, then they're dinosaurs, aren't they? But
the 90s Mario movie, yeah.
That doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about.
But it kind of made me think about as well, all these universes, the Marvel universe, for instance, right? So we're talking about MCU and obviously comics as well. Whenever there's big battles and they're in cities, what's the insurance in cities for housing, property, cars, for instance?
New York in the Marvel universe. That's just asking for it.
You'd have to be a multi-millionaire to be able to reside in New York in the Marvel universe.
They just ship the people there they don't want anymore because they know what's going to happen.
So all the illegal immigrants go to New York.
The one that comes to mind for me as well is Gotham. I think we were talking about this when Gil was playing the Batman games. So just imagine choosing to live in Gotham by your actual
even better Metropolis. Because Superman fights get epic. We're talking buildings, planets get destroyed, so I would say Metropolis insurance would be through the freaking roof.
House,
people will be leaving Metropolis.
Could you imagine all Gotham's really got to deal with Batman doing is, you might get a grappling hook through the window or a batarang.
The thing is, though, the villains that Superman deals with tend to be a bit, like, I'd argue, larger scale. So, like, if you're living in Gotham, the villains in that will actually just come for you just for the fun of it. But like Lex Luthor's probably not going to mess with just normal people because he actually is quite pro-human, isn't he? Like, that's like his thing almost.
Yeah,
depending on incarnation.
It's also the same with like Baz will agree with me on this as well because obviously we're both Power Ranger fans. Is that in the Power Ranger universe, like the Megazord versus the big monster battles? How many buildings get destroyed and blown up during those battles? Yet you never see any rubble in like other scenes. Like, you never see the city being cleaned up, and like you never really hear about this big mega robot fighting a massive skeleton. In other scenes after the Megazord fight.
So like different tone,
Chris. You can say that about the Godzilla universe as well.
Oh, the Godzilla one.
The MonsterVerse that's out at the moment with they're doing. They do kind of reference San Francisco a lot. They reference San Francisco being destroyed a lot by Godzilla.
Well, they're treating it more realistically. Like they're like,
at least they kind of go back and kind of reference that like, you know, what has just happened in that city. Whereas like they don't really do that in anything else, and it's just kind of like, really, like, you know, what's going on type thing.
Well, I think with the Godzilla universe, it's. So a lot of the other ones, it seems like it's been happening for a while, but then obviously it was 2016 or 14, the first one.
2014 was Godzilla.
So if it's based in, well, we say that, it's more like Godzilla turns up twice, but yeah. That film, if it's based at the time, because this is the thing, whenever I think of any sci-fi universe or any universe in general, I always try and put them in their own context. So obviously I think before, but no one knew about that in theory.
I think the monster universe is roughly set in the year that the films get released.
Meant to be,
in the MonsterVerse show that they've just done, the Apple one, they did it goes backwards and forwards to present day and
wait, -1,
I think
-1.
So like.
No. So it's called Monarch or something. So it's
like
-1 was the Japanese one.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a show called Monarch.
I haven't either, Dave. I don't have Apple TV, so
everybody's saying watch it.
I don't have Apple TV anyway. I have acquired the
ulterior means, yeah.
It's a good show, but it's the only
drink up E80s.
Jump back and forward. That's the only thing.
Yeah, it jumps back from present day to like 1975 or like around that era. And
so I guess after Skull Island, I would say, right? Like somewhere around. I think it is set after Skull Island in the past, isn't it?
Because isn't it like about 10 or 20 years or something? Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah,
you've got Skull Island,
and in present day,
it goes back to before that. Because in one of the episodes, they find Skull Island for the first time, and then they start setting up their
and then in
units to look after the kaijus.
I think in present day, it's set. I want to say it's set after Godzilla versus Kong. In the present day.
Oh, you mean you mean the other part, right?
Yeah, it jumps back and it comes up with it references Godzilla attacking San Francisco in the first film, and it comes up with 2014.
Actually, here's an interesting thing about in the Kong vs Godzilla film when they're one of the main things they're talking about is who's she called? Basically, they have to save the Godzilla. She's in all of them. She plays the woman in Stranger Things, the girl.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah. So her character makes me laugh in that because imagine being the one who's like basically the pro Godzilla when the majority of people have just seen this giant monsters go around destroying everything. And I get from like as an audience from the film's perspective, you understand what she's saying, like, oh, they're trying to stop this and all that. But imagine trying to explain that to actual like military and like general personnel that Godzilla's the good. You know what I mean?
What gets me with her? Yeah. What gets me with her character is that her mum died during the King Ghidorah and Godzilla
at the start.
fight.
Yeah.
No, towards the end.
I thought it was when he got woken up.
No, it was,
did she die later in that film?
She did manage to escape at the beginning of that when Mothra appeared from the cocoon.
I haven't seen that one for. Oh no, I remember Ghidorah got rezzed. But I might have
I think it was towards the end with the final battle between King Ghidorah and Godzilla. I think
it was like a moment, like you know what I mean?
Sacrifice herself for the new.
Yeah, she sacrificed herself. Yeah. So like
spoilers.
Yeah, so like
well, come on. How long ago was that?
A little insurance.
2022, 2021.
I love it when you mention like a film that came out like 20 years ago and people still go spoilers. It's like what?
Well, no, hear me out on that.
I'm sorry, but like
there's kids in their 20s that might go watch Ghostbusters and we ruined it. You get what? That's all I do. I'm like, hey, spoilers if you haven't seen Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters came out what? 40 years ago at this point.
So,
84.
When I was
it's the 40th anniversary this year for Ghostbusters. So if you haven't seen Ghostbusters at this point, right, you need to sort your life out.
I know that I haven't seen certain movies for the 80s and the 90s, and it's like, where have you been?
Yeah, I've got a story about this. Yet? So in 2014-15, when I was still at A levels, I was talking about Star Wars with someone, and this girl got involved. She was like, generally getting into like the pop culture stuff like this, and we talked about Star Wars, and then she didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke's dad. So when we explained it, she went, "Oh, that's what all those T-shirts in Primark were about." Because there was like a phase when Primark was selling loads of Star Wars merch.
Yeah,
and it was this weird, like, sort of strange experience to see someone who was still surprised in like the late 2020, the early 20-teens about Darth Vader being Luke's. I'm like, how haven't you seen just a meme online about this at this point, or like anything ever? It is kind of a weird experience when you find someone who hasn't actually witnessed that.
Yeah,
I'm smiling.
Well, I mean, like, there are some films.
People are always going to be finding it and then discovering it for the first time, and that to me that's cool because I remember when I did it. So it's like, man,
that's what I mean. It's nice.
Movies are timeless, and music's timeless. There'll always be people that you can be like, you've never heard of this, and then you show them some movie from the '80s, and they're like, that was freaking amazing. And I was like, yeah, here you go. In case nobody told you about that.
Yeah, I mean,
in case you weren't on the internet.
There are some films from like the 90s that I probably haven't seen or haven't heard of, but that's because I was born in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So obviously, that happens. But I'm like, if someone recommends a film from the 90s and I haven't heard of it, I'm like, oh, I'll go check it out and see what it's like. Or I'll go and look at it and see if I can find a trailer or some clips of it, just see if it would interest me.
I think parents matter a lot with that. I think if your parents look at those things, they're going to show you that. My mum was into Star Trek, so we watched that all the time. So it's.
My mum was.
I'm sorry,
cool.
but if I feel sorry for whatever, if I ever have some kind of spawn myself, if I ever reproduce, it's not going to be human. I can tell you that.
Half camel, yeah.
Like, I feel sorry for that that spawn of me because it's just going to
be half camel.
Yeah, the Discord alien.
It's going to get brought up on Marvel. It's like because from as soon as it can walk, talk, and watch TV and like have some kind of like little bit of conversation, it will be getting engrossed into the MCU as soon as possible.
Yeah,
like, I will make it eat, sleep, drink, and shit at the MCU, just like I have since 2008.
Because
I mean, we can't really eat paper.
My young Padawan's just about becoming a master.
Oh,
yeah.
How so?
Because he fucking knows more about fucking stuff than me now.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
It's funny when I'm at work and there's like the 18, because working in a pub, you tend to get like younger people who do it for like part time.
Yeah.
And my references are obviously like So I grew up on the prequel trilogy, Star Wars example, and a lot of them grew up on the sequel trilogy. But then a lot of them still, the thing is though, a lot of them still don't like the sequel trilogy. Now, I will always say I've always been a fan of Revenge of the Sith, even when it was unpopular to like the prequels. I've always liked that film.
I like it a lot.
I had critique about the other two, but I don't think you can, for example, have a problem with the Gungans if you're fine with the Ewoks. Because I think that they should have been the Wookiees. I think that would have made some more sense plot-wise. It would have fit with like Chewbacca a bit more. It would have, the actual film would have
made sense why they won.
Yeah, and exactly. And the Ewoks were included because George Lucas wanted a kid element. He wanted to make it, which is funny because they're meant to be cannibals, but he included that apparently because it was to make it more like all-round friendly in brackets because they keep teddy bears.
Oh yeah, look at these tiny little teddy bears fighting the Empire kind of thing. Yeah,
I never thought about the cannibalism thing.
But I just think it's funny how people whinge about the. Sorry, it's a bit of a side note. The Gungans, which I get. There's a bit of a racial thing there. It's a bit, but you can't complain about them if you like the fucking Ewoks.
Right.
I mean,
it's with the Gundams.
What do we really have in the sequel trilogy? Those little porg puffin things.
I mean, I did like Zombie Palpatine, but I mean, that's like removing 5 minutes of footage from the film and being like, he looks cool. That's about it. Like, he looked cool.
So I've only I haven't bothered with that film. I actually struggled through
C-3PO had a good role in the last one. I like that C-3PO had a good part, and he finally got to shine. I remove little things like that part was cool. This part was cool. Other than that, the whole thing is a giant pile of crap. If you ask me.
Here's a quick question for everyone. Actually, so when you you might disagree with something that someone puts into a universe, because I have my own what I'd call my personal canon stuff. So I don't really like. This is why I look at any universe, because I think there's certain things I like and certain things I don't like. Popularity. A very popular show I'm not a massive fan of was Andor. There's certain things about it. I think it's because of how I watched it.
I liked it a lot.
Well, this is the thing. Did you watch it as it came out, or did you watch it all at once?
I had to watch it as it came out because the first time I watched the first episode, I was like, "Oh shit!" And then it just, dude, as soon as Andy Serkis popped up, spoilers. I was like, I'm sold.
So
this is.
I watched it all in one go, and that for me felt like a slog.
Really? I guess.
Right. So,
sorry.
Here's my take on Andor. I've yet to watch Andor, even now, because I don't want to watch a show about a character that I don't actually give a crap about.
Fair enough.
So that was partly my mindset. I'm
sorry, but I don't see why we've got a show. I don't see why we got a show in the Star Wars universe on a character he wasn't the main character of Rogue One. He was more like a side character that tagged on with the main character. And
the most likely idea how.
I didn't care for his character in Rogue One, so I don't care for his character in his own show.
See, I like the The only thing I didn't like about it was the episode when they done the speeder bike chase. That just looked stupid. That scene could have been much better.
I can't actually remember. I was going to say there was so much to it, because the thing is, it felt like. So, have you guys seen The Expanse? I haven't seen the last couple of seasons, but I've seen most of The Expanse, the show.
No.
So that's meant to be a more realistic take on sci-fi, right? And it felt like Andor was trying to be The Expanse, but in the Star Wars universe, but also it didn't feel like Star Wars to me, which is why. Anyway, sorry, that was. We can go to Andor another time. My point was, I'm kind of picking and choosing in my own head canon what's canon, but then I don't care what not in I don't care what you think, more as in I don't hold it against people for what they like. So, for example, I kind of ignore the sequel trilogy in my Star Wars canon just because there's bits of the old stuff I liked, and there's also stuff that if I was to consider, because I like the idea that Star Wars is all rebel propaganda. I don't mean that in a bad way. I like the idea that everything's been compiled to try and make them look better in every scenario.
Yeah.
So you interpret it as, you know what I mean? I think it's quite a fun idea to look at it like that.
Watching it from an adult perspective, going through Star Wars as an adult perspective, and watching the Disney Plus shows, so Mandalorian, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, we'll scrap Andor out of that. Watching those, you can see that now is maybe you've seen it from our perspective and how how we are now as adults, you kind of like, who is actually the real good guy here? Is it the rebels? Is it the Galactic Empire? Like, you kind of like, I'm on the fence of like who's actually good at this point, because they're both as bad as each other in a way. They are both as bad as each other.
I came up with a cool idea for I really want them to either do a 6-episode thing like this or a film, and just have it on a veteran. So he's a Republic officer. It'll start as, and it'll be like at the end of the Republic as it goes into the Empire, and he's like a military ship commander. And make it like a old sort of like war, not like a war series, but like him trying to get to terms with, is this bad or good? Show like different elements from an Imperial officer's perspective, and don't just make it we're the bad guys generic series. Like make it actually like them putting down certain, because the Separatists are one of the things I find fascinating in Star Wars, because they actually they're basically led by evil people, but often have quite good points.
Yeah, well, that like. Looking at like the prequel trilogy and like Clone Wars, the series, I can kind of understand the Separatists' view compared to the Galactic Senate and the Jedi's view. Because the Separatists are trying to stop the Senate becoming what they became for like how they end up, the Senate and basically becoming the Empire. They were trying to stop that in reality, and then. But then obviously, they were corrupted by Palpatine.
Because he had both sides under his,
Yeah. So,
I recently started rewatching Clone Wars, Chris, and I'm up to the bit where 99 sacrifices himself to try and get the ammo for the thingies, and I think that character should have had a little bit more screen time, just so we can understand why or how did his mutation know, or what happened.
Oh yeah, when they're defending Camino, you mean?
Yeah.
That's a cool little.
That scene always gets to me. It's like 99. He always wanted to be a soldier, but they wouldn't give him the chance because he was
deformed
kind of thing.
He was an early clone, wasn't he? That just didn't come through right.
He was the first. He was in the first batch of clones, from what I can remember. And that batch was known to have many issues and faults. They were all more or less destroyed, apart from 99.
But yeah,
that's kind of why I resonate, and I kind of agree with the Bad Batch as well. Is because at the point of the Bad Batch is that. Order 66 has been called, but obviously their chips had malfunctioned because they had certain abilities, and they were just trying to survive. They're just trying to survive at this point. Like they're just trying to live a life and have.
I was going to say I haven't got around to the Bad Batch yet, but I don't care about spoilers. So if you say anything, I'm not bothered. Just for
So I can understand the Bad Batch's point of view now.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say before, was that stuff comes with, you hit different phases as you gain more experience in life, and then certain circumstances pop up and see how you deal with it. And then another 20 years, build that on, your perspective changes. Like, good versus evil becomes this huge gray area. And now you're seeing it from a villain's perspective when you're older. Take it to the other side and being like, well, shit, they actually have a fucking point. They just went about doing it the wrong way. And then you start looking at the good guys. Well, look at the fucking collateral damage. These guys are just throwing people through buildings like it doesn't matter. Take them to space and fight. Don't fucking throw them through 3 skyscrapers.
You can literally breathe in space.
Fucking people. Like, that's not a hero. So everything changes. So when you go back and watch Star Wars in 20 years, you'll find more. You'll literally be like, hey, this is even deeper than I thought.
Going back to the MCU. If you look at Civil War and Iron Man's argument about the Sokovia Accords with the other Avengers, is that they dropped a fucking city out of the sky, and look at the damage. Look at the damage that it caused.
But Iron Man created Ultron, who did so. In a way,
I get it.
They had to destroy the power source that was lifting the city.
I get what you mean, Dave.
There was no right decision at that point. Nothing was right. So it's pick the lesser of two
I can see like Iron Man kind of coming to that realization after having chat with that mother in Civil War of shit, maybe like we have been going about this hero business the wrong way. But I can also see the side of what Cap was saying in that is we don't want we can't have the government tell us what events we can go to and what events we can't go to, because what if it's an event we really need to be at and a fight we need to be in, the government say no and it's world ending.
It would become geopolitical. Like there would be a goal. And he knew that. He's like, he'd been there. He's like, if we let the governments tell us what to do, now it's going to be the UN sending us against this. And it's like, we're not soldiers. We try to stop these things from happening, not take orders from people and pick targets. That's not.
I like the way they slightly changed the story for the Civil War, because in the comics it was Cannonball that basically destroyed a part of the city, but in the movie it was Scarlet Witch.
Because Captain America's a bit more, what I would argue, not villainous, but he's more of a pain in the ass in the comic, isn't he? Because I've seen like summaries. He's a bit less of an actual.
He's kind of
like,
And then
I like Spider-Man's role for the comic, though.
Well,
Spider-Man's
he comes out as Peter Parker.
Yeah, no, it's not that, and then he gets exposed for not actually being a mutant. Remember how the X-Men and the mutant community welcomed him because he technically his cells mutated, so he is. They welcomed him, but then it came out that he wasn't, and then like the entire mutant community, well, I mean, whoever was left at that point, rejected him, and then Peter had to deal with that too. Like the mutants don't like me anymore. I was like, damn, and that was during Civil War, if I remember correctly. Like the extended.
He had a rough time in Civil War.
Isn't there a part in the comics where the Punisher is carrying a like beaten to a pulp Spider-Man in his arms?
I think so. I think I remember.
That would fit in. I mean, there's so much different
like Spider-Man. I think he gets jumped, and the Punisher gets there like just at the end of it, and like he's carrying Peter in his arms, and
I remember
like clinging on to life basically. Because there's a Civil War 2 as well,
you can't cram all that. You can't cram all that into a 2-hour movie. No. So they literally have to be like.
I think what they did well with that was the last actual one I saw at the cinema, just based on like life events. That was the last Marvel film I saw.
Holland stole the show for me. I love the movie to death, right? But then as soon as Holland popped in and I got to see Spidey and he stole that shield, I was grinning ear to ear and went, wow. They nailed it. As soon as his eyes moved with the expression, I was just like, we're good. That's probably the best Spidey on film I've seen.
Also, James Spader doing the voice of Ultron. Like,
you didn't like it?
No, I loved it. Like,
I thought it was Bryan Cranston at first because I didn't know. And then I checked the IMDb
at that point in time, I only knew James Spader from like his run on the US Office.
Really?
Yeah, that's all I really knew of James Spader. And like, I was like, so knowing that when I first heard that James Spader was Ultron, I was like, really? Like the guy from The Office? Like,
my favorite bit of that film. Sorry, go on.
Hearing him as Ultron and like saying like there are no strings on me, and
that was my favorite scene in that film. When he walks out like a zombie robot, that scene's so good. That
it was creepy.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, like
you're not.
I was like, I can't think of anyone else more perfect than for the voice of Ultron.
It wouldn't match now. I did the same thing. I was like, Bryan Cranston? Wait, IMDb. James fucking Spader? Hell yes!
I can see why you thought it was him now I think about it.
They sounded the same with the effects.
Their voice is very similar.
They're both very overdramatic when they speak.
Mm-hmm. See, I didn't like the way they done fucking MODOK. They could have done
that was so stupid, dude.
I haven't seen that yet, but I painted a MODOK up actually for a Marvel Crisis Protocol a while ago. It's quite a fun little
game. The way I will admit, like, I won't spoil it too much for you, Sweatword, but
you can say I'm not bothered by spoilers. Like I wouldn't mention it.
The way they handled MODOK is very disappointing.
Yeah, I thought I heard negative things generally, so
like that's probably what let Quantumania down as a film was the whole MODOK thing.
The whole movie.
Yeah, for me, that'll get the whole film down. And like Sweatwood will know from watching the Fulcrum podcast, and then when it comes to the Marvel spoiler reviews we do, I'm very like pro Marvel. I was going to say many bad things about Marvel products because I'll say it now. I've probably been brainwashed by the MCU at this point. But you know, as someone who's dedicated, you know, what are we now? 12 years in? No. What are we now?
No. Iron Man was
2008. So 16 years?
16 years.
Exactly this year.
So we're 16 years into the MCU at this point.
For someone who the military in the
UK. Yeah, for someone who has watched it from the very beginning of 2008 and has watched it as much as what I have, where I go and watch multiple reruns of the entire films, at least 3 times a year.
I do it.
You know,
we're doing it right now, actually.
Yeah, I think I've just finished my run actually for this year. I've already finished my run of the MCU this year.
We watched Logan last night, and my buddy hadn't seen it. He'd seen all of the X-Men, but hadn't seen Logan. I was like, "Oh, well, then we're watching."
Oh, really?
There's no choice. You have to watch this. You don't understand.
So, like I said to you in your server, I think it was your server. I said it in. I've seen half of Logan because I was watching it with a female companion at the time.
I get it.
And other things took over, so
I get it.
I didn't get to finish watching Logan.
That's worth it.
All right,
that's worth it.
I'm gonna hold the innuendo back there. Jeez.
Yeah, so I didn't get to.
He's literally like, "Get off me! Get off me!" The police show up. It was terrible. He couldn't finish the movie. Stop touching me.
I want to see what happened to Professor X.
So, I mean, I know what happens at the film. Like, the film's been out long enough for me to know what kind of the premise of what happens at the end.
Tell you the whole story from start to finish.
I was going to say actually,
it's an experience, man. It's a hell of an experience.
Because there's a lot of difference between the comic and the film.
Oh, sorry,
gone.
Well, yeah, in the comics, Hawkeye's in it and he's blind. The Hulk has kids with She-Hulk.
It was Wolverine who did all the stuff, not Professor X, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What?
So, have you read the comic for the Old Man Logan comic?
Oh yeah. It was That's where I got confused when I was watching.
Yeah,
Logan. I was like, wait a minute. But then, wait a minute. But I like
it's one of those things
because technically Logan, that timeline never happened. So we got to have fun with it. They kind of threw in the look and the feel of Old Man Logan, but it was not the same storyline really, and they just kind of kept it between the road. I liked what they did with the Reavers. So the change that they made with those guys, how they were all just kind of cyborgs and a group of soldiers. I was like, oh, these guys are badasses. Like, it made it more raw. The movie felt raw and dirty. Like, they're just following these guys around with a camera. You know what I mean?
Comic book for the Old Man Logan. It is a good comic because the thing that always confuses me when I read that is like when you've got the Hulk family and they're basically after the Hulk kind of thing, and it's like, what's going on here? And then I can't remember, right? There was a Marvel Legends figure I seen, and it was like, come with a baby Hulk, and I was like, what's the baby Hulk? Why has Logan got a baby Hulk? And then it's not until you realise is that that was a survivor because Hulk. Logan basically
got everyone.
All the Hulks, and it's like, how can Logan kill the Hulks when the Hulks are meant to be invincible kind of thing
from the inside out?
Well, my logic, I think, with the other Hulks is that because it's been bred in a weird way, the mutation's sort of diluted in a weird sort of sense where it's become not as. Because if every Hulk was as strong as the Hulk, they would own the world, wouldn't they? Like,
the Hulk storylines just get out of fucking hand. Yeah, like I don't even want to touch that shit.
Just go balls to the walls with it, and they just decide let's make something that completely that we can just say is standalone and completely separate thing. Just to, like you said earlier, that guy, you can just explore a completely different aspect.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I dug about the movie Logan, because when after watching it, I did some research, and they're like, technically, ever since Days of Futures Past in the film arc anyway, the shit didn't happen. So when he went back, none of this is a whole timeline. It never really happened. We're going to have fun and throw a few things together, which I absolutely adored it. For me, I was just happy to finally see Logan Wolverine get to be Logan Wolverine. like not holding back. Like, I mean, the first 3 minutes of the film, he is stabbing people through the face, like chopping arms off. And I was like, we've never had this. No matter what, even in the original Origins, they got a little violent, but we didn't have it like we did in Logan. It was raw. No. It was real. It was what it would really be like. And he was terrifying. Like the green juice thing, I actually made a short out of it just because every time I watched that scene, I'm like, God damn, I'd be shitting in my pants if you heard the Wolverine scream in the woods and just start full bolting through there, like fully regenerated. I'd be like, oh, we're all going to die real fucking bad, dude. And it's going to happen so fast. You know, he's just slicing through people and screaming. I was like, this is beautiful. This is what I should have seen in film when we first saw the Wolverine, but we didn't get it that way. You know what I mean? PG-13.
I was
about to say, yeah, you can't
get
that.
We did kind of get some of like full rage Wolverine in X-Men 2 when the Stryker's men attack the mansion.
That I put that in my short because it was just like that deserved it when he finally freaked out and those claws came out and the soldier's eyes go to the claws like uh-oh.
Yeah, like, when the soldiers are like storming the mansion and like Wolverine, when he's on the balcony bit and he jumps down and just like takes two of them out.
See that I was like, it's a little ballet, you know, he's like holding his arms up and then guys go flipping through the air with wireworks and I was just like, okay.
I think that film
we didn't get that in Logan. We didn't get that in Logan. It's just tearing people apart. Like, but his origin scene in Apocalypse, I dug it. Because that's more like the comic book arc I covered and that I grew up with was he was kidnapped. He didn't have no claws. They put those claws in him. So when they finally pop out, he is literally like fucking freaking out. He doesn't know what's wrong with him. His whole body's in pain.
Did anybody actually watch the manga version of the X-Men?
Yeah, I actually, what was it?
Was it
one on Wolverine Netflix? Or what was it called?
I think I didn't get into it, but I didn't see it.
There was one on Netflix.
Kind of cool. It was kind of cool.
That one, man, Wolverine, that's when he goes into his berserker mode, man. When he goes in that berserker mode, there's no getting him out of it.
He's got to pass out. He's got to overexert himself, pass out, and then he wakes up covered in intestines.
There is one episode that I did watching it was him and Beast that did get captured, and he was just saying to Beast, "It hit me," and Hank's like, and he's like, "No, hit me." And then he just kept hitting him until he got to that rage, and then you see the glowing eyes, and it's like, oh shit.
Uh-oh.
Because isn't the whole point with him in like X20? Is it X21 or Honey Badger or both? Like the whole point is he's meant to be able to like train how much anger he's built up over the years to help her out. That's like part of their relationship. It's because she's constantly just been taught to like become murderous and like assassinate people. So she's got like so his whole thing is trying to help her. That's how they have like a dynamic. They did it a little bit. He absorbs her rage and holds
on to it. Because I'm not familiar with I've heard X-23 is the new Wolverine in the X-Men arc, and I just heard about that. And I've heard people were complaining about it, and I'm like, I'm okay with this. Like Laura was a cool fucking character. I dug what I read so far and what I know about her. So I'm cool with her being the new Wolverine. You've got to pass the buck eventually.
Why folk are pissed off with us because it should be, is it Draken or Draken, his son? Because his son, I know his son didn't dislike his father and ended up joining the Brotherhood, and then later on in his life he kind of come to understand why his dad did what he did to him, kind of thing. And then he does become
that's the big one. He should have been the new Wolverine.
I think what I don't like about like the previous X-Men, and I think that what they can improve on it now with the X-Men being in the MCU, is I want a really good Lady Deathstroke. Go whatever her name is. The girl with the
so bad.
The guy, the girl from X2 with like the fingernails.
Yeah, but she wasn't right either. And then even the one from the Wolverine Origins, they had an opportunity and screwed everything up in that one. Like I was explaining that timeline to somebody who didn't want familiar.
That's the Lady Deathstroke we should be getting.
Yeah. That's what I want in the MCU. Because
we got a little bit of her in the Hulk versus Thor or Hulk versus Wolverine. Like we got a little bit of some Weapon X in that, and they did her proper in that animated show. The movie, if you ever watched it.
No,
I think I've seen clips, but I don't think I think I've seen like in my head. I've got like my mind's eye. I can see it.
Wolverine and Hulk versus Thor. I think they come together.
Hulk rips Wolverine in half. Or does Wolverine? Or does the Hulk like swallow Wolverine or something? Like
no. Old Man Logan, the Hulk.
That's Old Man Logan.
That's it,
yeah. No, it's Hulk versus Wolverine. It's an animated show. I think Steve Bloom, the guy from the Wolverine and the X-Men or whatever, did his voice. It's pretty good animation. Like, it's a pretty cool story, but they crammed it together really quick. But it was a dual movie. It was Hulk versus Thor, and then it was Hulk versus Wolverine, and you got them both.
Okay, yeah.
If you haven't seen those, check them out because you really like the Marvel Universe. You'll like them. You'll like how
they
did
on.
it.
Well, actually, I was about to say they're on Disney Plus, but it's
they might be. They might be.
They might be. Does anyone remember the Iron Man Extremis? Like,
yeah,
animated?
I actually loved that. It was really cool. The animation was fantastic.
Well, that was actually like ripped straight from the comics. How Extremis works was ripped straight from the comics. I think that was more based on the comic line of Extremis than anything else we've seen. I would have loved to have had that Extremis in the MCU instead of what we had.
Yeah. I mean, Iron Man 3 was weak. Let's all be real. It was the weakest one out of the bunch. They had already done the Avengers, so I'm not sure why we got it in the first place. And the Mandarin? I mean, come on, man. You had an opportunity to bring Doctor Strange and all kinds of shit together with the Mandarin, and you dropped the ball.
I love how angry everyone got about that. That made me laugh.
Shang-Chi either. Like you guys are screwing up the Mandarin when you could have brought in Doctor Strange back then, because there's your connection.
I mean, they did fix the whole Mandarin thing with Shang-Chi. So
I don't think they fixed it at all. That's not the Mandarin I grew up with.
They stuck a plaster on it, didn't they? Kind of like to try and, because they know that. I remember when that came out, that caused a lot of outrage when it was like the old from like actual comic book fans got annoyed about that, because but before then I was only really into the films. I hadn't really like looked at many of the comics, so
that's the same with me.
Yeah, so I wasn't really annoyed, but then when I learned more about the comics, I kind of understand, because I have my whole thing I look back on is what happened with I like, not, I wouldn't say purist, but I like old, like next gen era Star Trek, Deep Space Nine and all that. So when I see the new J.J. Abrams films, they genuinely trigger anger in me. So I can kind of relate to comic book fans. That's like the sort of connection I had when I realized I see why this annoys you.
Like, okay, hear me out. You're watching Iron Man 3 and you're seeing the footage hit the news, like the footage he's recording and putting out as a terrorist organization group. He's making all these threats. And instantly I'm thinking, all right, that's kind of fucking cool. You modernized the Mandarin, but somehow we're still going to get him doing magic and all kinds of cool shit, right? Instead, later in the game, you find out he's...
I got this before Christmas.
I mean, he looks cool, dude. Like, I was happy. Like,
the design of the character was really cool. Yeah,
and then you get he's an actor, and I'm like, wait, what? And then they never redeemed themselves, as far as I'm concerned. They never fixed it. I don't think
he's an actor. Come on,
I'm an actor. I mean, Ben Kingsley's great. I love him, man. It's just you had an opportunity and you dropped the ball major. Like, it would have opened the doors to so many other comic book characters. You now had access to the Marvel Universe, because then you got Doctor Strange, which Marvel Universe. Like, you were just expanding more and more, and that was years ago. Think about Iron Man 3. That was years before Doctor Strange came out.
See, I know we've had two versions of
Doctor Strange was
a comic book version at some point.
Doctor Strange was what, 2016?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
So it will have had to be before Infinity War, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Infinity War was 2018.
I think you're probably right on 2016.
Iron Man 3 was before Civil War.
Yeah.
I think. Was it before Age of Ultron as well? Or after Age of Ultron? So...
Iron Man 3 was...
It was after...
Doctor Strange was several years.
It was after...
Yeah, so I think Doctor Strange was 2016.
Because you remember he's having all them panic attacks from New York.
From the first Avengers. Yeah.
That's it.
Point in it.
So it was really early on. And from that point, you could have had Doctor Strange. I don't know why they didn't do Captain Marvel back then. It would have fit, and it would have been more well-liked if it came out earlier. It felt like it was too late for that. Like,
I think I know why they didn't do Doctor Strange. Now I'm thinking about it. So that was the point where they were still avoiding the mystical bit, or wasn't it? They were going more into like sci-fi and like that element of the plot, the Marvel plot lines. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm thinking that's probably why and maybe they just hadn't cast him yet or had that.
Yeah,
that'd be my guess.
I got to admit though, Benedict Cumberbatch, brilliant choice for Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
yes.
I think he does do him quite well.
He's a brilliant choice.
He has the new age. He has the new age Doctor Strange comic book look. With like the hair, the goatee, and everything. Like he has that look, like to a T.
And he's a fantastic actor. Like
he's got so much range.
He's top-notch actor. His Sherlock, that BBC Sherlock.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved that.
I think if he hadn't have done Sherlock, we wouldn't have had him as Doctor Strange.
I think that made him, didn't it? Really? Well, I might be wrong, but from what I can see, that was his break sort of thing.
He was Khan in the.
Yeah, but was he that before or after he was?
Sherlock was before.
I don't know. I found it later. I didn't even know the shit existed, and I found it late. Somebody's like, "You didn't watch this?" And I'm like, "What?" And then I downloaded the first one. I was like, "Oh my god, you got to
give me British, isn't it?" Sort of thing. So yeah, that makes sense. That you
Yeah, we're a little bit behind on the BBC stuff over here sometimes, guys.
I was going to say, sometimes that's not a bad thing, trust me. BBC have a habit of releasing crime drama after crime drama, and some of them are all right.
I believe a lot of folk are a bit peed off about the new Doctor Who series.
Oh.
Yeah. Well,
I'm quite Doctor Who.
I'm quite neutral on that because I've been rewatching some of like the David Tennant era stuff, and I stopped after David Tennant just because that was my when you go through phases when you're younger, and that was what I liked at that point.
Yeah.
So that was when I got to that, I went from that onto something else. So I got up to that point. So everything after David Tennant is completely new, and I'm on the last few episodes of the David Tennant era. But I think what got me when I noticed it is because people were complaining, not to go too much into this debate because everyone has different things, is they're complaining because it's brackets woke or whatever. And Doctor Who, the more I look at Doctor Who though and watch the episodes I've been watching and some of the even older stuff, it's kind of always been a bit more like, compared to other things, the sci-fi in general tends to be more liberal or that sort of thing because
they were ahead of the time. Ahead of the times.
It generally is in grand scheme of things.
Who, so like if you go back and watch the classic Who, like I have been doing as well. Like I've been watching the old Who's now.
Yeah.
It's like that. Still, it's very ahead of its time. Still, with some of the companions and and some of the the characters.
Sorry, when you watched the classic Doctor Who when you were 6 or 7, you watched it behind the couch because you're like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even then, to bring up the Aliens universe, think about how far back and how diverse even back then that they were thinking of the future, that it would be all these cultures and all these people working together. It's been a thing for 100 years. You know what I mean? And then they're sending them out into space, and the crews were always diverse. So I always thought,
it's like the thing that I didn't understand is that when they done Aliens and Predator back in the day, in the 90s, they done a toy line. They done an Aliens toy line, they done a Predator toy line.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And a Terminator, right? And I was like, it's an R-rated movie, so why did we get toys? But you find out 10 years later that there was meant to be a cartoon based on that toy line, but it never got processed because they weren't too sure how to actually put the aliens and the predators.
How do we murder people in anime?
Kind of thing.
You make the blood green.
Hey, RoboCop made it. Ask me how RoboCop made it as a cartoon. I don't know, but that's America. Well, we can do RoboCop. That's fine. What?
It's like
you guys watched the movie, right?
Terminator was another one. It's like there was meant to be a cartoon. And it was meant to be called Future Wars because one of the waves that they did was for that cartoon, but the cartoon never got published.
Well, they were like, "Yeah, you can't."
They had everything done, and seemingly they had a pilot for it, but for some reason they thought it was too violent for the kids. But then,
well, yeah, it is.
Saying the one that comes to mind to me is you can see the difference with Ghostbusters 1 and 2. because the first Ghostbusters has a lot of adult jokes in them. Obviously, it's meant to be more for everyone, but it has and then Ghostbusters 2, like the whole concept of the ooze and all that, whatever people's opinions are on that, it's meant to be more child friendly, in line with I think some of the cartoons and animations that I think they released some of them in between. Was it the real Ghostbusters or was that after both of the films?
Oh, the real Ghostbusters was my shit.
The real Ghostbusters is of the main 4 Ghostbusters was set after Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. All right, but they've released toy lines, I imagine, from
absolutely.
McKenna,
all of it.
I think then you had the Ghostbusters as well, and then you had the
fake Ghostbusters. With the monkey,
the half-ass Ghostbusters.
That's the one before it, because that was the first Ghostbusters before the movie. Well, once the first movie came out, that cartoon came out. That was the Filmation version, and then it's like they decided to do a cartoon based on the rest. The actual characters.
And then you had Ghostbusters the video game, which is a direct sequel to Ghostbusters 2.
I like that game.
That was great.
That was a good game.
Fun fact about that game is that it was meant to be a film.
I heard that.
I think I read that somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the premise idea.
I mean, Dan Aykroyd's name is in the credits. So
honestly, I'm pleased they made it a game, because it was one of the first games I played that was a movie themed game that wasn't complete.
And it had all of the main 4 Ghostbusters was their actual actors doing the voice lines.
Yeah.
Oh, that probably has a sentiment of the quality.
It was just before Egon passed away.
Oh wow!
So that was going to be the third movie, and then obviously it got turned into a video game instead, because I think there was a bit of a bust up between the main 4 actors.
And if you're voice acting, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So they made it as a game, and then we got Ghostbusters Afterlife, which again, phenomenal film.
I will get around to it, Peaky. Oh, did we say we're going to do a film night? Maybe.
Yeah. So the next movie night in the server
will
be
that one. I'll come to that one.
I own it. So I own it, so I don't even have to worry about streaming it, getting it again.
About a Ghostbuster movie, kind of fill in gaps and a lot of things.
Yeah, okay. So I'm really looking forward to Frozen Empire in March.
Yeah, so same
March. Yeah, I think it's March. I think it got brought forward a week as well.
Cool. Huh. Very cool. Very cool.
I see you did that, dead guy, because it's Frozen. Cool.
Well, thank you. I just think, man, the second in Afterlife, in Peaky, I'm not even going to give too much away here, but you know what I'm talking about. In the old town, when the Ecto-1 goes sliding around that corner, dude, I accidentally found myself smiling so big and kind of giggling like, this is fucking cool. I will admit,
though, I'll warn you now, Sweatword, the ending to Afterlife, I cried in the cinema. I shedded tears.
I told you about what so was it Black Ops 1 or 2 where, spoilers, Makarov, it turns out he was dead all along. Was it Black Ops 1 or 2?
2, I think.
Yeah. So when I was I got that early, and then my brother got caught at Christmas, and he asked about how was it, and I was, it's good, Makarov's in it. I won't tell you what happened, but it's very sad. And he's like, well, I know he dies now. Like, it's obvious. He was angry for about a month about it.
I won't like not many films can make me cry and tear up. But obviously Afterlife did it, Endgame did it with Black Widow's sacrifice, and
Guardian 3 got me.
Dude, we've been talking about, me and the guy from that I work with, we've been talking about like computer games and movies and all that. And we were talking about like deaths in computer games, like what ones kind of hit you hard, kind of thing. One of them was Gears of War when Dom died.
Oh shit!
Dom killing himself in Gears of War. Yeah. Also, another one of Gears of War is when Dom finds his wife in one of those chambers, and I'm like, and she's just like a skeleton. I'm like,
for me, it was Orin.
I can't remember when Soap McTavish dies as well. That kind of is like, why kill that character off so early in the game?
how does that work with the new Modern Warfare game? Because when I was watching Peaky play, I was really confused. Because the last one, I was like, wait a second, aren't like these? Wasn't he dead?
No, so they redone the Modern Warfare games.
So is it? So Modern Warfare 2 is in original Modern Warfare 2 is different timeline brackets, or
so Modern Warfare, the newer Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3 are completely different.
I was so confused.
They're the same
I mean,
kind of,
I wouldn't think so.
Premise of, you've got Makarov, and you've got
same character pool but different.
The different storyline, and kind of modernized it even more than what it was at that time on 360. But I will admit, like that Modern Warfare 3 campaign, it's short, but it was really good.
I have heard that there's meant to be a new Gears of War coming out.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be based on like the characters that we've seen in the last couple Gears, or if it's going to be a total different universe.
I don't know. Cool. For a while, it took me forever to figure out that it didn't take place on like some kind of future Earth or something. Like it took me a while to be like, oh, this isn't even Earth. This isn't. Oh, so by the time I grasped onto the universe, Dom's finding his wife, and I'm like, oh God, that whole storyline, man. There's a lot of roughness in there.
Actually, the one
Final Fantasy X, that's what killed me the most. Like I took me forever to play the game, and then at the end when Orin's like walking off and turning into those ghosty things, and I was like, wait a minute, he's been dead this whole time. And then I start crying, and then Titus goes and jumps off the thing, and I've been a dream, and then he disappears, and I'm like, this game's killing me, man. And I've got my brother.
I've never played.
He was there watching me cry.
I have played Final Fantasy games, but I'm not really into them. They're not my style of games.
See, I don't play Call of Duties. For me,
did you have to play through? Did you play which Final Fantasy was it that came out on Xbox that came out on like 4 discs?
I don't know.
I just remember it being a bit of a meme because like on every other platform, because
I wasn't an Xbox guy, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm PC PlayStation. So when you guys are about Gears of War, I only know the lore because I've watched videos on it, but I don't know about the actual.
Yeah, I had a 360, but back then I was a PlayStation guy. So
I remember, yeah. Final Fantasy, I just remember there being this one, and it came out on several discs. I was just like,
I want to say 10 or 11, but
it might have been 11.
Well, we're going to Google it in a minute.
Yeah,
it just made me
laugh.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Do you remember when you used to have to flip a disc?
Or not even flip. Please insert disc 2, and then you screwed it up somehow, or you were afraid you were going to screw it up and be like, oh man, I'm going to lose my game, my save files. Oh my God. Yeah, those were the days.
I used to hate that.
What game is it? I rented a game. Oh, so I have a game rental service. Well, I can rent like games every month, like whenever I want. And I rented the Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora game, the new Ubisoft one. Mm-hmm. And it came on 2 discs, and I just looked at it and I went, I have not seen a game come out on 2 discs since the Xbox One first came out.
So what console was this for? Sorry, was it for Xbox?
For Xbox Series X.
Oh, right. So it's...
what?
And I had to put disc 1 in, install it, and then it said, disc 1 has now been installed. Please insert disc 2. I went, what year am I in? I'm meant to be in 2023 here, and I'm not.
I wonder how many gigabytes that must be then. Yeah, that's
I've been told that game's quite decent, Chris, but I haven't tried it myself.
I've 100% completed it. It took me a week and a half to 1,000%, 100%.
I did like the first Avatar game that they brought out. That was quite a good one.
Was that the one where you could choose which side you joined? Because I've seen footage of it, but I haven't. I remember.
I never played those.
Also, here's a quick thing about games. What do you guys think about the return of the B-movie tier games? We've also so like for example, I know Peaky's played the new Kong game. There's the Walking Dead Destinies, and all these. There's the Golden game. All of a sudden, there's a sort of a weird return of these sort of like B-movie tier of games that kind of went out of fashion for a while because it like went through.
Right, so I used to love.
I don't see the appeal
now. I don't.
But just conceptually, like this is what I mean. I think it's such a bizarre thing that's just cropped up over like.
So
recent,
Walking
like last
Dead,
year.
So that Walking Dead Destinies is a fan-made game.
But you know it's made by Game Mill, and this is something I find interesting about this. Game Mill made Big Rigs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? Yeah, Big Rigs is like an infamously terrible game that came out years ago. If you ever Google that, Dead Guy, if you haven't seen it, like Big Rigs it's such a memey game that people. It's really funny.
The Wolf Make Breakfast.
If you're wondering how big
Telltale's, oh no, it ain't.
If you're wondering how big Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is, it's 79.1 gig.
Jesus,
that's not too disc big, though, is it? Like,
well, when you're thinking digital, no, but disc, yeah. I mean, they're finite. You can only fit. So much
but
data
what I was more thinking is like, sure, like most games are about that these days, aren't they?
Yeah,
it's
still pretty big.
Modern Warfare 2 is 100 gig without the Modern Warfare 3 update.
You seen how big Ark Survival Evolved is with the DLC? It's sound files, isn't it? A lot of it.
Yeah,
it's a lot
of the time when it comes to game size, it is the graphics and the sound that takes up the storage space with games. Because if you think sound files are immensely big anyway, like Dead Guy will agree with me on this with like audio recordings.
Oh yeah,
they take up space.
All mine are waves. I will accept nothing less than a wave file for my sound effects, and those get effing huge, dude. And they're like PCM quality, like top quality waves. So I can, if sometimes I only have a choice but using an MP3, and I can hear it. I can hear that I downloaded this crap from Napster in like 2001 quality MP3, and I hear I'm sure other people aren't that picky, right? Like people listening, but for me, I'm like, I hate that.
So my brother's a music type. So you know how that my Amazing Greg song, Dead Guy, that I'm sure you enjoy. My brother generally does music stuff as well. So he's all into audio production and stuff. So whenever he's like trying to get me to do a song in that like a silly thingy song, he's like, "Can't you hear the beat thing?" I'm just like, from my head, I just can't comprehend it. There is a certain level, like when you're into like music and sound at a certain level, you just recognize things differently.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things I just don't pick up on. Just
your ear goes right to it. Like I can listen to a song from a band, and each time I listen to it, or even throughout the song, I can focus out and listen on the drums. And now I'm just hearing the drummer and I'm seeing him play the beats. And then now I'm going to fade out. Now I'm going to focus. I think being a musician helps you do that. So when I'm watching a movie, I'm taking in all the sound. You know, I'm listening to all this,
he says that.
He takes to the soundtrack and the music, like, because that is so important. And not having music is really important. Like, knowing when to do that, knowing when to pull it back and let a scene be more intense. Because there was no music, you're just going with the raw sound that's going on, or no sound at all. Or I love that stuff, man. So yeah, I get that, and I get frustrated. Music people get frustrated because you're like, how do you not understand this? Like, that's why I was never a music teacher. Like, put your fingers here. It's just like, why don't you get? We don't understand that other people can't do that, or they're not trained in that way. You know what I mean?
I just think it's interesting that people. It's like, because whenever I watch something, I look at all like the like I said about the thing about Star Wars earlier, it's the sort of like philosophical implications for certain things, and it's like most people just don't often consider those sort of elements to it as well. It's, you know what I mean? Everyone has their niche of things they get more invested in, like interested in specifically. It's the same sort of thing, but I think sound often gets neglected by the wider, spectrum of people when it comes to that sort of thing.
I agree. And even directors and writers, like I watched so many behind the scenes and documentaries and things. I love that shit. And a lot of them, they always end up saying, well, we had the movie done, blah, blah, blah. We had about 2 weeks left and we forgot about the music, because
that's happened a lot.
They use music that they have already as placeholders when they're editing. And then a lot of times they go to score people and be like, we want a song that feels this way or feels that way. And so they forget. And then it's always last minute. And then you give this poor guy 2 weeks to throw together an entire score for like $20,000, and he's like, and he's dying because he's like, all I had was this other film. I've done 2 fucking films.
Well, we are gonna wrap up this episode now. I do want to just quickly say, I am sorry to T, Hell, Tim's Talk, and Gilbert for being in the chat. For some reason, StreamYard wasn't bringing up the YouTube comments in the live chat.
I know I wasn't seeing it either. I didn't even know.
That's what. So if you're wondering why I wasn't acknowledging anyone in the live stream chat, StreamYard just wasn't pulling them up for me to bring up on the screen. So I do really apologize for that. I've literally just seen them on the side of the actual YouTube video. So yeah, I do apologize. Yeah, thank you for being in the chat, everyone, and thank you to you three for being on. Like I said, our first podcast of the year. We went from pop culture universes then onto a tangent of movies and video games. Which, do you know what? That's
it fits the bill, kind of, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You said universes. We talked universes.
And honestly, it fits what this podcast is all about, which is just me and a group of my friends chatting the shit and just going off topic on anything and everything. Like I said at the start of the stream, if you have Lego if you have Lego sets and you want to improve them and improve your displays, head over to gameofbricks.eu/Peaky Arrow to save 15% off on your order.
I'm actually going to have a wee look at that, Chris, because I know it's not Lego, but I want to see if I could get a light kit to actually go to my Castle Grayskull that I built. I think I like.
I mean, you can. So with Game of Bricks, everyone, for those who don't know, they have custom sets for actual Lego sets, or you can create your own light kit bundle by buying the lights separately. So you don't have to buy the actual kit itself. If you just want street lights, you can buy street lights. If you just want the little LED light strips, you can buy them. So
no, just what you were talking about. I was kind of looking at that Mega Constructs Castle Grayskull that I bought, and it's like that would actually look cool with them in light, especially where the skull, skull face is like, because it's just black bricks behind it, and it's like that would actually look quite cool if it could glow up.
Take a look to see what you can get. But yeah, thank you everyone for again being in the chat. T said it's okay. I'm used to being ignored. Well, T, you can.
She isn't.
But yeah, thank you everyone. So, Dead Guy, what have you got coming up over on your channel?
If anybody is watching that hasn't known, hop over to my channel and check the community tab. I've got a casting call. So if anybody's interested for this next coming up year and the year next, jumping in and getting in with me and possibly doing some cameos or some characters or some voice acting, let me know.
I hear a certain British YouTuber that's on this stream right now is going to be coming on for a few roles for audio comics.
Absolutely. Peaky is you're gonna be somebody. I haven't figured out who yet, but he's gonna be somebody in the Constantine that's coming up, because I want as many UK people involved in that as possible. It's fair, and that's just the kind of guy I am. I'd rather just not be the only one doing the fake British accent. And then but basically the most recent thing coming up is I'm gonna finish up Aliens. Aliens Chapter 4. That's going to be the next one, the next issue for that one. It's a pretty cool story arc, and it's the best voice acting cast I've had yet to work with. They are all so professional. I feel like I'm working with top tier professional voice actors. So this one will be the best series that I have done yet so far. I just will say that. So that'll be the next thing up.
Okay. Yeah. So if you love audio comics, go and check out A Dead Guy Productions over on YouTube.
Thank you.
Baz, anything coming up on your channel that we know?
Just the usual. Alex has just started back up the live streams on a Thursday, so check them out Thursday 9 o'clock UK time.
So go check out Dark Like an 81 on YouTube for
with the silly shorts, showing off some of the collection. Sees it do that, then sit down and spend 2 hours making a film video for like 10 minutes.
That's fair. I prefer making long form content compared to shorts.
You might be getting messages about jumping on, so you might have to take over, because I know Dave's going to be. I think he's away on holiday for like a month, so I'll need the.
So you need your wonderful, handsome co-host back.
Well, I was expecting you to jump on Thursday night, but you never did.
No, I ended up watching. I tell you what, I ended up watching The Traitors on BBC One. So
The Traitors.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
But I need to get Dead Guy and all that on at some point as well during the year.
And
okay, cool.
Hard with the American time zones kind of thing, but we'll try and work something out.
Hey, I tell you what, one of the last shows besides Sherlock that I caught off of BBC that really, really got me was was it The Guardian or The Bodyguard? I'm not sure.
Bodyguard.
I can't remember what. Whoo! I absolutely loved that show.
That was a good show.
It was good.
But
sorry,
and
it was random as fuck.
For those who haven't already, I have started a new series on the channel, something I didn't think I'd end up doing on this channel, and it is gameplay videos. And the series is rightly named What is Game Night, where me and a group of my wonderful friends jump in games, have fun, all while I'm recording. And the first 2 episodes are out, and they're both Among Us.
Yeah, I did. I don't know. I can't remember if it was the first one or the second one, but I pissed myself laughing.
I tell you what, right? It was honestly. So those 2 episodes and episode 3 was all recorded last week, and I never had so much fun. And going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Especially you tried.
It was late, wasn't it?
Like we ended up wrapping up at about 2:30. I went to bed at 3 a.m. last Sunday. I then got up at 8 a.m. to start editing. So I only had 5 hours sleep, and then I started editing and making thumbnails. So
it was the thing about it. Like, how can you not swipe your card properly?
That card swipe is annoying.
I've never even played this game before, so this is going to be comedy for you guys.
And we will be. There is another Among Us recording later on. After this podcast, so
I've watched so many like game thingies with folk playing that game, and it's the most. It must be the most fun game out there, kind of thing, because you don't know who's
brilliant.
Going to keep be following you, and you're like, is he going to kill me? Kind of thing. And he just walks past.
I'll tell you what though, that first game where I almost won.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
I was sweating. I was sweating and shaking after that first game.
I was pleased it was Ian was the other one live because he's got good logic and he followed my frame of logic. That was the only reason we actually survived that. You were that close.
I was very close. But anyway, thank you everyone for stopping by and checking out the podcast. And yeah, if you're new here, hit subscribe, hit that bell button so you know when I go live or post a new video, and hit the like button as well if you want. I don't care. And check out A Dead Guy Productions and Dark Lycan 81 as well. 2 amazing content creators here with me, and we don't care about Sweatwood. We're not a content creator yet.
One day, yeah. I've got my mic now, so I can finally do some audio. I'm going to hopefully do some
a snowball mic. This is the mic I use. Ready?
Yeah.
You're welcome on board anytime you want, Edward. So you got a mic now. You're welcome on board. Anything you want to throw something at. I do have some Lovecraft coming up, and all you guys are welcome. All you guys.
I
mean, I could use some northern UK for sure.
I mean, to be fair, my even though I'm northern, I don't sound northern. Like there is that. But yeah. I could be a good cultist for Lovecraft.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This has been the Peaky Podcast, episode 6. Your Peaky is in another castle. And peace.